Can you hear me through the room? Can you hear me through the room? Okay.
Perfect, actually.
Okay, good.
Okay, I just noted it down. Testing, testing, testing. You can hear us? Okay, perfect.
Can you tell Alvin that? Alvin, can you hear me? Can you speak through Zoom?
Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, so this is.
Are these microphones always?
They are when the system is on.
So all of them have to be. Yeah.
All mics are kind of really pop up there. They just touch the windshield.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Oh, good to know.
You can't do that.
I'll definitely let them know.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
See, that's a whole, yeah.
If you do, just where it says push, if you just keep your finger on it, give me a tick temporarily. Okay.
All right, Alvin, I think we're good, man.
And I think we're good on this end.
Okay, okay. If I need to know, definitely. All right.
Oh, no, you're fine. And it is.
And I'm gonna go back over to my office here too, you know. You need something?
No, it's not.
Hurry up, the door, hurry.
They're just. So the Zoom is the laptop. And
If you need anything.
For the water.
So as far as video, do they have cameras? They're the public one.
Yeah, okay.
there is a public
Public Wi-Fi. Let's see, that's what we can.
Oh my God, it's Patrick. All right, don't forget you guys are on.
Video.
Let me, get off here so I can finish it. Okay, bye. Write that down.
So it doesn't have a password?
It does, for the employee one, because that way you can disconnect. Okay. T is capital. Thank you. You're welcome.
Quick question for you. As far as video, is this connected to your camera?
It is connected to the cameras.
Oh, sweet, okay.
So, but now the cameras, so what you've got is your cameras are only going to show what's in here. But with the clerk laptop selected, it's going to be one or the other.
Okay, let's see. Is it the integrated webcam? No, it's not. It's
Two. Those are gonna show there.
okay, so how are we gonna get the video?
See, that's the point of we can't do the hybrid meeting.
Mm.
So your cameras can't, you can't see it here.
Hey, Jude.
It's shown on our live stream equipment. Does
Jude.
that make sense?
So once it's live, they should see it regardless.
Cameras can't. Once it's live, if your cameras you can't see it here.
Hey, Jude.
I'm gonna get Frank on the phone.
Okay.
Jude.
Because I think that was the point of the hybrid meeting. You can't do the Zoom and the cameras in here. You can't do both.
Okay.
Hey, I've got G here and he has a question about the cameras. He's wanting the Zoom, he's wanting our camera system to go out on the Zoom, but that can't happen. Okay. Not through Zoom. Yeah, he's here now, so.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We can't use the camera as like a webcam.
No, it's not a webcam.
Stream, so it's going.
I believe so. Well, so what we're doing now is we try doing it through Zoom, but because of the hybrid, right,
Right,
we can't do Zoom
And see your
and
cameras.
see cameras.
Right. To the live stream. Yeah.
I think what I did with Frank last time is I actually just sent him the YouTube stream link and then the stream key, and then he got it going from there.
Yeah.
But then that takes away from Zoom. Yeah, I did bring a webcam. Okay.
We're doing what?
I have a webcam that I'm gonna use,
Okay.
and we're gonna hook it up there.
Look it up where?
But I'm gonna try to see if we can connect it to Patrick's laptop.
Okay.
He'll be in the Zoom meeting as well, and we
Okay.
can do the video, and then we can record the video from there.
Okay. Did you hear that?
requesting a rate increase. So yesterday we were in, thank you. Yesterday we were in Clovis to hear public comment, and we did have some public comment there, including from some public officials, and it's really great for us to be able to hear from your voices down here, the issues that you're facing. I know that it seems that sometimes we're far away in Santa Fe and Albuquerque, and so really appreciate your presence here. So in addition to the public comment hearing in Clovis, we're going to hold another public comment session this afternoon in Roswell from 4 to 7, and that'll be in the Chaves County Commission chambers. And then for all of these public comment hearings, we will take virtual comment as well. And we also take comment on any items before the commission at any of our open meetings, as we will do in a little bit. So the next announcement is that on March 18, we have a public comment hearing on a rulemaking about the PRC's filing fees, and that's in docket number 2600005. Further, we have another public comment hearing on March 25 for the community solar rulemaking, and the docket number for that is 2400258. So another announcement is that during our next open meeting on March 26th, we will have presentations from the utilities on their wildfire preparations. So Excel, PNM, and El Paso Electric will present, and we know that the utilities are working hard with their preparations for the upcoming wildfire season, and we have those presentations not just for our benefit, but so that the utilities can communicate with other stakeholders, city officials, and keep us apprised of the preparation. So there's a lot of education that is needed around this issue, because it, while we've all heard of wildfires going on in New Mexico, but also in other states, it's an issue and a problem that keeps getting worse and worse. Commissioners, those are the announcements that I have for now. Do you have any opening remarks or announcements that you would like to make?
I'll just reiterate that thank you to Hobbs for hosting us and allowing us to use their facility, and great to be here.
Okay, so we have next on our agenda public comment. I know that we have some public officials in the room. I know that we have Senator David Gallegos, Senator Larry Scott, and Representative Elaine Sena Cortez, and the mayor as well. So don't want to put you on the spot, but just wanted to offer you the first opportunity if you would like to provide any public comment. If you would, please. Well, you know better how the facilities work here, but you can.
Commissioners, thank you so much for coming to Hobbs, New Mexico. We are honored to have you. We appreciate your leadership and your hard work. And fellow Roswellites, appreciate you, Commissioner Nybert, for your service. So we're grateful. Thank you for being here. My name is Jonathan Sena, and I'm the mayor of Hobbs, New Mexico. And today I stand in support of Xcel Energy's proposal for new power generation in the form of new natural gas plants, along with renewable energy. This is important because we need good, reliable energy for a growing community. When energy demands, they're only going to increase for us. I also support this initiative because it supports jobs for our community and will enhance our tax base. That in turn supports, obviously, hardworking families and our schools. I support Xcel Energy's proposal because it ensures good, reliable energy for families, our local hospitals, first responders, and our local employers. This is good for all of us. It's good for the Latino people. Our demographic is growing here. It's good for everybody. every community, every demographic here in Hobbs, New Mexico, and southeastern Mexico. And we always want to make sure our people have the power they need in the time when they need it. So thank you again for your service. I appreciate you. Thank you for your time this morning.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, if you would allow me. I am State Senator Larry Scott, and I'd like to start y'all off with a graph. First, gentlemen, let me echo the mayor's comments. Thank you for coming to Hobbs. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. The graph that you have in front of you is a chart of emissions in metric tons versus gross domestic product per capita for every nation on earth. Orange circle that you see at the lower right portion of that graph are all of the countries with high standards of living and low emissions. And you will note that inside that circle, it's vacant. There isn't any reason to believe that New Mexico would fare any differently as we move toward zero emissions in 2050. Back when these executive orders were issued 8 years ago, there was a great deal of enthusiasm that technology was going to make up the difference. The efficiencies of our renewable generation facilities was going to improve. Battery storage technology was going to improve to the point to make these resources dispatchable and affordable. That has not come to pass. I believe it is time for the Commission to start considering some of the off-ramps that are available in order to provide for the energy needs of our communities. Experiencing 3-year waits for new industrial connections in southeastern Mexico. Back when these mandates first came to pass, the petroleum industry responded by capturing emissions, electrifying everything that could be electric. We have 1,000 vapor recovery units running in southeastern Mexico today. The problem is we don't have the power to run them. Anecdotally, I am aware of hundreds of generator sets powering microgrids on individual facilities. And the irony of this is that these gen sets are not as efficient as utilities. Natural gas generation with waste heat recovery. We are actually emitting more CO2 into the atmosphere than we would be had we been building out these utility scale facilities. Excel is now attempting to locate a natural gas fired facility just across the state line in Texas. It's problematic for a number of reasons and creating some friction, I believe, between you and the Texas Public Utility Commission. Eventually, that power may not even be, even if it's generated in Texas, may not be able to come across into New Mexico because of the emissions consequences. These generation facilities, if built in New Mexico, create jobs, they create economic opportunity, and ultimately, they create wealth. I do not believe that we want to move back down along that curve on the chart that you have in front of you toward the direction of Chad, Niger, and the Republic of Congo. Now, if you'll just give me another minute or two, I would like to address equity acquisitions that have been proposed. I believe Blackstone and PNM and BCP, gas company in New Mexico. These small utilities have need for significant capital to continue building out these renewable facilities or the mandates. And I believe that these equity firms can provide that. And it looks like you guys would still have complete oversight opportunities, even with the acquired company. Somehow, New Mexico, it is now commonly accepted that big business, private equity, is bad for the consumer. The fact is, our own public policies, the policies that I have helped to create, have done more to raise costs for our consumers than anything that business has done. The free market is brutally efficient at developing cost-effective solutions that we have set aside with our mandates, particularly with respect to electricity available, affordable, reliable, and dispatchable should be the yardsticks we're using. And environmentally sensitive is the fifth of those desirable characteristics. We have spent years now focusing our efforts on number 5, the environmental sensitive. Please consider, with these proposals that are in front of you, a bit more balance to our future energy needs. And thank you, gentlemen, for your very kind attention.
Morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I'm State Representative Elaine Cortez, and I represent the beautiful people of District 62, which is the heart of Hobbs, to the forefront of Lovington. Today is so important because southeastern New Mexico is growing with families, small businesses, schools, and major industries all need more electricity than the current system can deliver. And many people have waited for years to get connected to the power that they need. So today it's not about convenience, it's about keeping homes livable, businesses open, and communities thriving. Excel Energy is proposing a new power generation and transmission project that brings reliable electricity to the region. And this includes the two natural gas plants, along with new renewable energy and battery resources. These additions would help ensure that our homes, hospitals, first responders, and local employers have the power that they need when they need it. And that is so important. But we are facing challenges. New Mexico law, as you know, requires that power plants become zero carbon by 2045, just like Senator Scott said. However, as the PRC, you can consider exceptions when they support reliability and affordability. Excel is requesting flexibility for the natural gas plants so that they can move forward now while continuing to reduce those emissions over time. You see, without these exceptions, electricity could become more expensive and less reliable for everyday families and our local businesses. At the very end of the day, southeastern New Mexico is growing, and our communities, we need these reliable, affordable power to keep them safe and to support our local jobs. We all want cleaner air, but we also need an energy plan that works year-round for homes and businesses. Excel's proposal aims to balance that cleaner energy with dependable power. And at the end of the day, that is what we all want. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your time and consideration.
Good morning, Jim. And I also want to thank you for coming to Lee County. Appreciate the opportunity for us to be here. I'm State Senator David Davis, and I live in Eunice. It's the heart of the Permian Basin. I want to talk to you first off on, we sort of lump all these together because they're all valuable fish right here. The P&M Blackstone merger. I worked for P&M for 30 years. I was actually part of the gas company in New Mexico when P&M got it in a lawsuit. But I was on the gas side. And I just want to tell you that I've looked through the paperwork. I've always prided myself on trying to keep up to date as an employee what happened to that company and to both companies. And both of them are both for you now with different needs. I've always looked at it from the employee's value. And I see what's happening here. The acquisition from Blackstone for P&M. I look at that and I don't know how P&M can exist with the mandates that we've done from the Capitol and forcing them into different opportunities for them. I think that the path forward for me, that without this acquisition, P&M is going to have a really hard lift to get everything to the mandates that we've asked them to be. And the idea in their paperwork that there's little or no anticipation of change in the company structure. And to me, that's important because part of New Mexico is having stability. And that company right now operates in a large area of the state and very, very good job for our employees and our communities. And that means a lot to me, being that being a prior employee. One of the things that came up to me was a huge lesson that we're looking at a anticipated savings of $64 million for the customers. And that's important. I'm fixing to go over and talk about SPS. I am a customer of SPS, and I understand they're looking for a rate increase. But the reality is there are costs associated with what we Santa Fe mandated for. So I could see from the P&M Blackstone and even the gas company in New Mexico issue that those people, I do have natural gas in units for P&M for gas company in New Mexico. So what happens then is critical to me where I live. But both those industries, both those companies have to look at sustainability. And I think that Blackstone merger is going to be the only piece that we're going to have to help P&M in the long run. And I'll go on to SPS. And I appreciate that they're looking at more power structure with gas plants. here in Lee County, and I think, Senator, Scott had brought up, may have been Representative, Cortez, Senator Cortez had brought up the delay. There's a large delay, and it's not an SPS. It's actually getting, people to come down here to inspect the connections. We're trying to diversify our state. And when we do, we have key businesses that come into our area that they have delays in getting tied into the power structure. And it's not SPS's problem, that's us, the state. But there again, I think there's a key piece that I would want is to maintain the reliability and the consistency that we have with SPS. They keep expanding their structures here in the Southeast by need. And I just want to make sure that we give them the opportunity because they're a huge economic development for our part of the state. So once again, I thank you all for coming. I think what you guys are looking at these power grids on what it's going to mean to the state in the future. So I stand in support of all three of those entities and their growth potential because New Mexico needs it, Southeast New Mexico needs it. And I thank you all for your service and yeah, thank you for coming to Lee County.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission and staff. Thank you for being here this morning. We appreciate that. My name is Sam Cobb. I'm retired in December of last year as mayor of Hobbs after 13 years and 9 months of service. I also have a food processing company here that is one of the largest food processors in the state. I don't have my cowboy clothes on today, but I also own a ranch that we're doing a solar project in. So I hope to share some thoughts about my relationship with SPS/Excel over my years as public servant, and also some of my personal experiences that I've had as a businessman and rancher that's been heavily involved in alternative energy. As mayor for my 13 years and 9 months, and prior to that, we've always had a great relationship with Excel. The desire to deliver affordable, reliable service to us. My food processing plant's about 100,000 square feet. My customer base is Walmart, Sam's Club, Whole Foods, all of the major consumer providers of food products in this country. And from a food processing standpoint, site selectors look at areas to where energy is affordable and reliable, because that's a huge component of our cost of delivery of services and products to those customers. So I want you to keep that in mind. That's very important as we work to try to diversify our economy here in this area. Food processing is a very stable environment for employees, those types of things. So that's very important as you consider the impact that it has on economic development. That plant, by the way, is about 75% of that 100,000 square feet is refrigerated. So I have a substantial electric bill every month, but given the current rates that they have and the rates that we're proposing, it still gives me the ability to be competitive across the United States. Also, I have just finished 13 years of being involved with my solar developer of putting in a 400 megawatt solar farm. We went through all of the things to do that. Of course, the pandemic shut everything down with the Southwest Power Pool, so I'm intimately involved in all of the issues related to interconnections with Southwest Power Pool. Phase 1, that power is going through Excel's interconnect and into the Southwest Power Pool, and will ultimately be delivered to a rural cooperative in northeastern Oklahoma and Kansas and Missouri. So kind of unusual that we create power here and it gets delivered to a faraway place like that. But we've had a good experience working with Excel on that interconnect and those types of things. So where those opportunities have arisen, I've found them to be very, worked with us very well on trying to get some of those barriers taken care of. Secondarily, after my retirement, I have been heavily involved in economic development with the Economic Development Corporation here in Lee County, and we're getting a lot of interest from the data centers and those types of things. Given the proximity of natural gas and the perfect environment for solar in this area. We're a little farther south than really some of the wind projects have been, but you know, the current strategy by the data centers are to have solar with battery backup, and they want to have also a reliable supply coming from natural gas sources. So I want you to consider that. It's incumbent upon us that are interested and desire to make our community better, and long-term employment availability for our people, diversify away from solely an oil and gas-based economy, that we have the tools to be able to do that. Your body has the ability to create policy that gives us that ability to do that. So I would encourage you to listen to the individuals today and take that back with sincere desire. We are certainly an anomaly in the state of New Mexico. One of the few communities that are growing exponentially, a lot of demand for power. We have oil and gas operators that are literally delaying some of their oil and gas investment because they can't get sufficient power to the location to be able to produce the product that they're doing. So please, thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. Anything I can do post this meeting to assist you in some of your decision making, but don't hesitate. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman, Commission members. We appreciate y'all coming here. I'm with Representative Randall Pettigrew. Thank y'all for coming to Hobbs. We're honored to host you. Representative Randall Pettigrew and I are in support of growing our power grid quickly. We are asking for your help in doing so. The job stability, the stability of the grids, the growth of New Mexico, all depend on the renewable facilities getting on grid. Electricity availability and affordability are two huge factors for economic growth, which we will explore. Keep this really simple and sweet. Please keep us thriving with Excel and these projects they are working on. The PRC is urged to give the exceptions that they are needing to get through this, and we appreciate you and your consideration for this.
Morning. I hope I'm not jumping ahead of any elected officials. Good morning, Chair, Commissioners, Commission staff. Jasmine Venegas with El Paso Electric. You all know me by now. In fact, we met earlier this week with our CEO having one on the meetings. But I'm here giving public comment by way of formal introduction so that the public can get to know who I am. Jasmine Venegas, like I said, I am a member of the Regulatory and Government Affairs team at El Paso Electric. And I, along with my colleague, Rico Gonzalez, who's sitting in the audience, am responsible for putting together and coordinating strategic, active, proactive, but above all meaningful engagement with the Commission to benefit our New Mexico customers. I previously worked with El Paso Electric starting in 2022 and moved to California, and I worked at Pacific Gas and Electric the last 2 years. I've returned home and I'm now a resident of New Mexico and back at El Paso Electric. And so I look forward to continuing this engagement with the Commission and with a focus on our New Mexico customers. As the Chair mentioned, our experts will appear before you in the upcoming months to present on our wildfire season preparedness and our summer capacity readiness. And we cannot be more excited to tell you and tell the community about how we are transforming the energy landscape for our customers in southern New Mexico. So again, thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning, and I look forward to continued engagement. And you know how to reach me if you need to get in touch with me. And I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take this comment and then I'll check with Patrick to see if we have any public officials online.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Robbie Robertson, the mayor of Lovington. Just like to, even though we are not Excel provided, the local co-op that we have is like any other of the communities, very running at maximum capacity. And I'm here to just help support that power being a utility in this tremendous growth that we have right now. Both in Lovington and all of southeastern New Mexico. We feel the competition for power. And so it's the supply, not the supplier, that is critical. And so I'm just here to help our community be able to achieve the goals that are rapidly coming down on us as far as growth and expansion of not only utilities, but of business in our area. And we just want to, as Lovington, we just want to provide support for all of these generation possibilities. And again, I could reiterate what everybody's been up here saying, but basically this comes down to our community is in dire need of power. We're just asking you to adapt and continue when it's in your hands to please give us as much consideration as you possibly can. I know you've had a long meeting already, so I'm gonna get out of here, but thank you very, very much.
Mr. Chair, we do have a few online public officials for public comment. I'll call them one at a time. Pilar Faulkner, go ahead with your comment.
Hi, this is Santa Fe City Councilor Pilar Faulkner. I represent a district that is made up of some of the poorest people in our community, as well as the largest population of children in the city and the county. I urge you to support this initiative. I think that it will provide better infrastructure as well as some direct benefits to the people of New Mexico, approximately $239 million worth of direct benefits that will go into the Good Neighbor Fund, as well as investing in clean energy, just to mention a couple of things. I will be brief because I know there's other people who want to testify, but I do urge you to support this effort with PNM and the other utility company.
Next, Joshua Hernandez. Joshua, are you on Zoom right now?
Yes, I'm here. This is State Representative Joshua Hernandez. I'm here to support the partnership between PNM and BlackRock because it offers an unprecedented $239 million in benefits, including $35 million specifically dedicated to economic development and workforce training. Blackstone's 10-year investment commitment provides the long-term capital PNM will need to modernize our grid and add the transmission capacity essential for New Mexico energy transition. This deal protects our local economy by keeping PNM's headquarters in the state while honoring all existing labor contracts. With $105 million in customer rate credits, the largest in our state's history, this acquisition ensures our energy remains affordable while fueling the future energy needs for growth. Thank you.
Next, Margaret Chavez.
Good morning. My name is Margaret Chavez, and I serve as the city council here in the city of Lordsburg. And this is from my perspective. I'm just not saying that as a city councilor, but I'm also saying this as a resident and a customer. I do believe PNM's proposed acquisition is a positive step and that will help ensure reliable electric service for long-term stability for our region. I believe this acquisition is particularly important for rural communities like ours. I mean, we're out here in frontier land, where dependable infrastructure plays a critical role in supporting local economic development and future growth. One of my one thing that's closest to my heart, as we have a lot of poor residents down here, it also provides long-term stability for program funds like Good Neighbor Fund, and which helps families who may fall behind on their electric bills and ensures and support remains availability for those who need it most in our communities. For these reasons, I respectively ask the PRC to approve this acquisition. Thank you very much for your time.
That's it for publications.
Thank you, Patrick. Do we have any other public officials who would like to provide in-person public comment? Also, just to invite in, oh, yes, we do.
Although I classify as a public official or not, I appreciate the opportunity to represent the educational institution environment. I'm with Southeast New Mexico College, Carlsbad. I have been a working environmental geologist for approximately 30 years throughout the Permian Basin, as well as other states in Texas, Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, Kansas, Nebraska, just to mention a few. I am a former employee of Xcel Energy. I've served there in capacity as regulatory compliance manager and environmental specialist for the water belt field. Last week, and I'm talking about this, first of all, I want you to know that Southeast New Mexico College is supportive of Xcel Energy and what they're wanting to do with the natural gas plants, because natural gas is, as a geologist, is one of the more readily available natural resources that we have. And it's one of the, we need security for our energy sources. We need to be able to meet the demands, and we need a very cost-effective source of energy, and natural gas provides that for all of us. As an educational institution, we train the workforce, and our workforce transcends not only county lines, but state lines as well. New Mexico Junior College trains people that works in Eddy County. We in Eddy County train people that work in Texas, that work here in Lee County. And I mean, I live here in Hobbs, but I work in Carlsbad, all right? So we are very interested in continuing to work with water. And I bring that up because we are working with an operational solar thermal distillation plant for the treatment of produced water. We clean it up, and we're doing it. So will soon become the plant manager for that. And last week we have challenges. Water's life. And so not only do we have challenges, but we need the energy to be able to clean up produced water as we continue to move forward. And it's not just us, it's not unique just to New Mexico. It's a common challenge in Texas. Last week I was in Texas, and I was meeting with a lot of water regulators there and water managers in Texas because of the issues that we were captured in Texas with what's going on there. The need to have the energy in Texas as well as New Mexico to be able to clean up the produced water for reuse as we move forward. So all of that having been said, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you all for being here. We need dependable energy on demand. Even though we participate in solar thermal distillation of water, of produced water, we have to have security. Our energy source is very important to us. We've got to meet the demands of its job and its economic stability. We are building a new $40 million technical science building there for our program at Southeast New Mexico College. Costs are going up. Construction costs don't go down, they go up. We have to have enough financial stability to stay in the business, so does everyone else in the educational institution. So thank you. Please consider this. And if you have any questions, I'm available and can talk about a lot of other things, but that's one of those DP messages.
Don't get me started. We're about to be able for a long time. Thank you for your time. Appreciate y'all being here.
Yeah, I'll open up the floor to anybody else who would like to provide public comment in person, and then we'll check online after in person to see if we have any public comment.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jennifer Grassam, and I serve as President and CEO of the Economic Development Corporation of Lee County. Our organization works every day to attract investment, support business, and create quality jobs across Southeast New Mexico. From an economic development perspective, reliable and affordable electricity is not a secondary concern, it is the foundation of growth. Lee County is one of the primary economic engines of our state, supporting thousands of jobs in energy, manufacturing, and small business. As our communities grow, we regularly work with companies looking to invest and expand here. But one of the first questions we are asked is whether the power grid can reliably support their operations. And too often today, we not answer that with certainty. Excel's proposed generation additions would ensure our region has the reliable power needed to attract employers, support industry, and keep Southeast New Mexico competitive. Reliable electricity supports jobs, strengthens the tax base, and keeps our communities strong. We encourage the Commission to support solutions that keep power reliable, affordable, and available for families, businesses, industries that depend on it every day. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Do we have any additional in-person public comments? Patrick, can you check online if you have any other?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do have a few more. And I'll start with Miranda Lawler.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I would just like to say that private equity firms don't care about public interests of the community. They care about their shareholders and maximizing their own profits. A company with their considerable resources will outmatch any oversight the PRC might be able to have. Increased rates and pollution don't benefit the average New Mexican. We need to be investing in our communities and making renewable energy more accessible for everyone, not make private entities have more control over ways they can make the average New Mexican pay more. When Blackstone bought out NIPSCO, rates increased for individuals in Indiana. If we look at the track record of Blackstone, they don't benefit the environment or people. We talk about economic stability, but if we actually invested in lower carbon emissions and renewable energy, we could give a more stable energy source across different areas. Energy security won't come from a private entity that has less oversight and a track record of prioritizing its own investments than that of individuals. I would like to say I'm against this, and I hope that we're investing in New Mexicans and not private equity firms. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Patricia Wilson.
Thank you. Commissioners, my name is Patricia Wilson. I have lived in New Mexico since 1969. I'm opposed to the proposed takeover of PNM by Blackstone. I am a PNM ratepayer. I am not a Blackstone investor. Blackstone's purpose is to provide, quote, predictable annual cash flow yield. Let me repeat that. According to their website, quote, we seek to apply a long-term buy and hold strategy to large-scale infrastructure assets with a focus on delivering stable long-term capital appreciation together with a predictable annual cash flow yield, end quote. A video on their website explains why you should care about data centers. It describes data centers and power as, quote, the picks and shovels of the AI revolution, end quote. There are trillions of dollars being invested in data centers. Don't kid yourself. Blackstone's purchase of PNM's parent company has more to do with the explosion of data centers in New Mexico. In a year when our snowpack is the lowest on record, we face a summer of heat, drought, and restricted irrigation. We cannot live without water. You cannot grow crops with data. You cannot drink data. In a major development yesterday, hearing examiners of the PRC have granted a motion requiring the joint applicants PNM, TXNM Energy, and Blackstone's Troy parent company to show cause why a $400 million stock transaction was not unlawful under New Mexico law. Public utilities are not ordinary corporations. They are monopolies that serve millions of people and are granted extraordinary privileges under the law. Because of that, the law requires transparency, accountability, and strict oversight when controls of these companies changes hands. Blackstone is not in the business to run an energy system that serves the public interest. It exists to extract wealth for its investors. Please do not approve this case. I am also opposed to Xcel's energy attempts to skirt allowable admissions by proposing 2 natural gas plants, each slightly within compliance, rather than a single plant that exceeds compliance. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
And next, Kevin Bayou.
Hello, thank you very much. And thank you for Patricia for everything you just said. First, I'd just like to say how it would be a shame if the people of New Mexico are sold out. It would be a shame, and it's a shame to hear some public officials already speaking on these kickbacks that will be provided and not thinking about only thinking about kickbacks and not thinking about just the livelihood of ratepayers. I also, somebody brought up the point of the Good Neighbor Fund, right? Which is awesome, no shame to them. But if we look at it, that also offers one-time assistance for low-income customers, one-time assistance. Why would we think about that when we can just make life easier for people in general and not sell out PNM to Blackstone? As Patricia just stated, their main goal is to earn money for their shareholders and not in the interest and infrastructure of New Mexico. They're thinking about data centers, everything that was mentioned. So I have been speaking with local businesses here in Albuquerque, everything from auto body shops, to, restaurants, bars, tattoo parlors, businesses that drive the local economy, businesses that would suffer the most if rates increase. And so we need to please keep in mind Main Street, not Wall Street. Do not adhere to this big business mindset that is only going to serve a couple people and will be bad for the local economy. I can't stress it enough. We have small business support that I will send to you guys, to the PRC, in opposition of this, because if small businesses rates increase, then what is our economy going to look like? Because there will be kickbacks for the few, and the many will suffer. Please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that's it for public comment only.
Thank you. I'll check once again to see if we have any additional in-person public comment. Not seeing any. I just want to say thank you for sharing your perspectives between public comments we heard yesterday at Clovis and here today. I'm very glad that we came here to hold this public meeting and public comment sessions. Just being able to hear your perspectives and hear where you live and have this in-person interaction is invaluable. So thank you to all our staff who facilitated this, and the county and city chambers of commerce for hosting this. So commissioners, we'll move on to the next item we have on the agenda. So we have 3 meeting minutes. And this is for a special open meeting held on January 21 and 2 regular open meetings. One held on February 12th and one on February 26th. Are there any discussion items that you have on the minutes?
Mr. Chair, I do have a couple little things on the February 26th minutes. On the second page, under announcements, the March 12, 2026. The county of Chavez is spelled Chaves and not a Z. We need to make that change, particularly since we're going there this afternoon. And then on the 6th page, under motion in the middle of the page, I think the word request should be plural. So supports HB 70 and requests HB signed for legislation.
Any additional revisions or discussion?
I didn't see any others on the other few minutes.
Yeah, I'd seen a typo on spelling of somebody's name, but I corrected it before.
Okay, so with that, then I would move to approve the 3 sets of meeting minutes with the revisions that are included in board effect and that Commissioner Nybert just explained to us.
Second.
And so I have a motion in a second. Let's take a vote on that.
Commissioner O'Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilera?
Yes.
Commissioner Nyberg?
Yes.
The motion to approve the 3 sets of minutes with the changes to the February 26th. Meeting that passes unanimously.
Thank you. So the next business item that we have here is the consent action items. We have 3 orders before us on the consent action agenda. Commissioners, is there any discussion on those items?
I'm willing to move for approval of the consent action items, and then just as discussion, just wanted to highlight one of the items on here, case number 266 UT, which is a financing case for Epcor Water, which is in Curry County, which is where we were at yesterday. And then I like highlighting these cases just because they are almost always on consent, but they're very fundamental to the work the commission does here. A lot of what it is just reviewing financing of how utilities are paying for things. In this case, it's a public benefit credit facility that will allow the water utility to help with beating PFAS in Curry County. And so that also is fundamental to what we do here. You know, water is the only thing we regulate that you ingest. And so I just didn't want, you know, it's appropriate that it's moving through on consent. I just want to highlight it. So again, move for approval of item.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Not seeing any discussion, so we'll take a vote.
Commissioner O'Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilera?
Yes.
Commissioner Nyberg?
Yes.
The motion to approve the 3 items on consent action agenda passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
So we'll move on to our regular action items. The first item is going to be presented by Mr. Will Mount, and this is case number 2588 UT. We have Will online, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. This matter concerns PNM's application for approval of 2 economic development projects and the issuance of an accounting order for the projects. Concurrently with its application, PNM filed Rule 440s for the projects. And I will note that this is the Commission's first matter under New Mexico's recently enacted economic development statute. So before the Commission today, we have 2 possible orders approving the application. So I'll reiterate, both orders approve the projects, but there are some slight differences between the orders. Commissioner Aguilera's order conditions approval on staff's Rule 440 review and includes a determination regarding reasonably anticipated new load as part of that statutory definition of an economic development project. Now, alternatively, Commissioner O'Connell's order approves the application today without those elements. And I will note that the application is seeking pre-construction approval only for these economic development projects and to defer costs as a regulatory asset for possible future review in a rate case. So at this time, we are not determining prudency or cost recovery. We are just reviewing the applications for pre-construction approval. And with that said, both options are legally sound, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Okay, thank you, Will. So I think we might be able to take care of one of these items, one of the two differences in the two orders that you highlighted. You explained that one of them approves the application contingent on staff review and the other does not. Can you explain the one that does not? Can you explain whether there is any language that would require staff to conduct a review, or is it a plain approval without any further discussion of staff review?
I can explain that. I'll also tell you, I don't know if you know this, but I can't see you guys, so it's a little bit awkward talking to you all. But I will say that in Commissioner O'Connell's order, there is language that says that when staff previously reviewed the application, they noted that they reviewed the application from PNM, and they also reviewed the concurrently filed Rule 440s that were attached to the application, and staff noted that they didn't have any issue with the 440s. They didn't flag anything in staff's response. So Commissioner O'Connell's order does reflect that. I don't have the pin site for that, but it is in there.
And I agree with that approach. I think the order that I provided had that recommendation from OGC, and my order was accepting that, but I do understand and I agree that staff has already had an opportunity to review, and I believe that they would have highlighted any issues if they had them. So with that, I don't know if there's any further discussion on that, but I would yield to the other version that doesn't require any additional steps from staff review.
Yeah, I can just speak for myself on that, and but first of all, just fully appreciate we had a staff team, Edison Jimenez, Jonah Malden, Gideon Elliott. They provided very good review of this application, and I also wanted to express appreciation for PNM on how they handled this, because this is a case of first impression, right? We've got a new law. We're trying to implement the new law. And I'm sure PNM remembers this, a couple of meetings back, we had a different application and we rejected it. And part of the reason for that was just the law isn't clear about standard of review. And so there's really two lanes available. There's the CCN lane and there's the Rule 440 lane. And 440 is for things that are, more like normal course of business. CCN is more of a location permit, significant construction. So we had both of those come in at the same time. Wanted to do a good job of implementing this new law. So we got staff review on both of those, and very helpful. So in this case, we have an order that says these are appropriately viewed as 440s. What makes them different is they've got the certification from Economic Development Department. And so that should speed things up, not slow it down. So that was why I thought it was important to acknowledge that, you know, what staff provided us in this case, if it was a 440, it was much more than we got last time. We got a notification from them that we needed to bump the brakes on a 440 filing. So just wanted to say all this stuff out loud to highlight what I think would be a best practice going forward is if the utilities, when you're working with economic development to get these certification letters, please also meet with utility division staff. And then in that meeting, you can figure out, is this a CCN or is this a 440? And then when you file the application, you can either just do the 440 form and attach the EDD to it. The staff will say, yep, that's right. Or you can file the CCN with the EDD letter, and then you're going to get all the benefits that the new law provides. So again, this is funny because we've spent a lot of time and effort on a 440. If it was a if we had recognized it was a 440 when it got filed back in December, this thing would have been done a month ago, right? So just saying that is try to build a foundation for the future here with these kind of things. So again, appreciate that P&M went with extra caution of making the filing that they did. In the future, it things like substation at Mesa del Sol, which to me was the epitome of why the law passed in the first place. Meet with staff, get agreement that it's a 440, and then we won't be investing as much time and effort on this as we have. It's very appropriate we did it on this case. Hopefully we can benefit all future cases by what happened here. It is again the only reason that I am speaking up. So then just clarify, Commissioner Aguilera, what you're talking about is if we move this order that just says this was a 440 and it's approved with, there is also significant discussion. Also want to thank NMPRC, they participated in this case. So the order is lengthier than it would be otherwise, again, because it's case of first impression and NMPRC raised some legitimate concerns. We thought through it. That's discussed in the order. But just clarifying that that's where we're at.
Yes, and so thank you for that. And I think where maybe the orders differ then is I included a paragraph that explains that how the commission would treat future filings. So again, this is a novel case and just thinking ahead and the precedent that we're setting here. And the initial draft that I reviewed explained that there needs to be a finding that these are economic development projects and they're certified by NMPRC. The concern that I have with thinking about it only limited to only those things is that where is our review then? In the statute, I see that we need to make a finding that the projects are necessary. And while I have full confidence in NMPRC being able to determine whether to certify a project as an economic development project, their responsibility is different than ours. We also need to make a finding. We're responsible to ensure that the cost of the projects are reasonable, that they are necessary. And so the order that or at least the paragraph that I would like to add is a paragraph that explains that the commission needs to make a finding that the projects are necessary. And in my view, we already have standards established for how we approve different types of projects. We now have this economic development statute that sets a quicker deadline for our review on some of these projects. And so to me, that is a large difference here. I think that if we leave it to EDD to certify a project, and if these are any type of facilities that are listed in the statute, those two limited considerations remove our ability to say whether the projects are necessary. And so I think what NMPRC was explaining here is that there could be a potential loophole where if a facility qualifies as economic development just because they're that type of facility, and a utility is able to receive a certification from NMEDD, then there is nothing further that we can do. And so the language that I would like to include in the order would clarify that the commission has to make a finding that the projects are necessary. In this case, these are 440 types of filing, so I disagree with NMPRC's arguments on that point. And we have a process to approve 440s. And so, and for people who might not be familiar with that, so these are projects that are in the ordinary course of business. So it would be unreasonable for the commission to have to approve every type of project. So the utility needs deference to implement some projects and solutions that are in the ordinary course of business. And so the order would make that finding here as well. So I guess the question is whether there is concern about the paragraph that I included in the alternate order that I proposed, it's paragraph 27.
Mr. Chair, I guess I did not read the new statute as preventing us from our base job, and that is making sure that the projects are in fact needed. I still saw that being our primary role. It's just that it seemed to me that the economic development part, certification part, was to really speed things up and to give maybe, I hate to say priority, but allow that process to move much quicker than maybe a traditional process. And so I still thought that we had the ability to review the matter, and if we determined that it was not necessary, we had the ability to fall back on our primary powers and basically deny it. Although there's probably more of a presumption, having gone through that economic development process, that it is necessary, because I would think that they would, dealing with the economic development department, trying to establish the necessity of that particular project. But I didn't see it as totally absolving us of any responsibility
with respect to our primary roles. So that's why I wasn't, I didn't view, the one order as taking us out of the loop. And I was comfortable with, I guess what we're calling Commissioner O'Connell's order, as it was written, but, if we need to clarify that, that was probably a discussion that you and Commissioner O'Connell can have.
Well, yeah, so your explanation, Commissioner Nyberg, aligns with what I'm thinking is the statute does not remove our ability to review a project. And so my edits were more in reaction to the initial draft that I received, because in my review of that initial draft, there was no review that the commission would be able to do. And so that was my concern, is that NMPRC is concerned that there could be a loophole would come to fruition under that initial draft. And so that's what I was reacting to, and that's what that's why I added that additional paragraph.
Yeah, that additional paragraph, I think, states very well what I was trying to say in my preamble to this discussion, that, yeah, that there's two tracks here, 440 CCM. Each track has its own review process. We will do our job no matter which track we're on. The thing that I don't understand is the addition on paragraph 4, which says necessary to serve reasonably anticipated new load. I think that's too tight, because if you go back to the law, paragraph A, it talks about this is necessary to attract new customers. And so that's in it. I see that as the role the law gives EDP, which is they are aware of which sites are being viewed for economic development. If it's a hot spot and the site needs to be perfected to attract new load, then that's what the certification gives us. It's not our determination on new load, it's attractiveness under site development standard. And then I think it also conflicts with being that tight, conflicts with paragraph E, because in paragraph E, it says that it's for the ongoing development, construction, or maintenance of resources for economic development projects that provide incremental capacity or serve incremental load growth. So it's when you're adding to the network, you're creating capacity. You're not necessarily serving new load. So those two things are where that was what I would like to learn more, is why would the value of including that necessary to serve reasonably anticipated new load. That's just too narrow based on what the law says.
Okay, I understand. So that language comes directly from the statute section 62-626 G1.
That's just a definition. The other, how you're supposed to use the definitions are A and E. So
what if we said be necessary as determined by the commission?
Yeah, that would be okay. But I'm just saying there's more to it than just load.
Yes.
Well, also, you probably need to look at the language in the middle of paragraph 27, where it says the commission will evaluate projects in corresponding existing standard for approval, because really that new statute interjects more forward looking stuff, where our standards now are, you have to prove that it's needed then, as opposed to allowing the economic development parts to be taken care of. So we probably, I don't know, we probably need to loosen that up a little bit if you want to put that paragraph in the.
Is it the word existing that's causing a concern here?
Yeah, because we evaluate projects, they have to prove the necessity of the project. Right?
Would it be, would it solve the concern to eliminate the word existing?
I think put a period after, projects. Commission will evaluate projects. Will evaluate the project.
Okay.
That gives us a lot more flexibility and still allow us to consider the future economic development potential in that area, even though it may not be firmed up at that point in time.
Yeah, I think
that would be up to Commissioner O'Connell whether he wants to include it or not, but I'm just pointing out, I think that paragraph that you want to insert has a concern in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's confusing because existing standard for approval is a phrase that's in the law. And then who's applying that standard, us or you?
Does Commissioner Everett's proposed solution work for you?
We restated because I was still.
Just put a period after the word project. The commission will evaluate, I would say the project period.
Yeah.
Commissioners, if I may, I would like to flag that paragraph 27 in Commissioner Aguilera's order is footnote 55, citation 55 in the O'Connell order. And it's not copied word for word, but a lot of that language is already in Commissioner O'Connell's order.
Yeah, I think this is an important part to explain. And so I would prefer to put that in the body.
Yeah, I mean, engineers.
Footnote 55 looks pretty good.
And so I guess the request would be promote footnote 55 paragraph. Or fine.
Well, I just want to check, at some point there was an edit to one of the earlier paragraphs to reflect the word established instead of determined. And the word determined comes from the statute. So in the demonstrate. And so in Commissioner O'Connell's version, which word are we using? And I understand that, you know, they're essentially the same thing, but just trying to stick as closely as possible.
Systems.
Yeah. It just demonstrates. Okay, so that's good. So I think then with the addition of the paragraph as revised and also in the paragraph before, which in my order was paragraph 26, we made another additional change to just reflect that the commission would determine that the project is necessary. So we would be deleting the additional portion that discusses anticipated new load.
Well, that entire paragraph. And I'm working off your email, Will, from 7:30 last night, which included Alejandro's red.
Yes, that is, that's the correct copy. You guys might not have the, the commissioners might not have the correct, paper copies in front of
Yeah,
them.
that's why I was just trying to clarify which version of the O'Connell Queen that I'm looking at.
Well, can you just explain the red line? What is it a red line up? Which is the queen in that comparison and which is the new version?
So the redlined version is a redlined version of all of the changes between your order and Commissioner O'Connell's order.
So
And
is
then
it my order edited or is it Commissioner O'Connell's version edited?
I believe it's yours first and then his second, when I did the red line, because your order was a little bit longer.
Okay, I just need one more minute here. Okay, so in paragraph 24, what I propose is we add back requires the commission to determine whether the project is necessary. And then later in that paragraph, there's another deletion that says be necessary. I would add back be necessary as determined by the commission. Back paragraph 27 as we edited, as Commissioner Nyberg proposed editing.
Well, the last proposal was just to promote footnote 55.
All right. Okay.
Just trying to make it so it says like a block.
Yes, that all is good with me. Thank you for working through that.
Yeah. So, Will, do you understand where we're at? We're starting with your email from last night, O'Connell Queen, adding the necessaries in paragraph 24 as regular described, and promoting footnote 55 to a paragraph in that order. And then otherwise, I think we're good.
Yes, I do.
move for approval of that, assuming we'll understand what I just said.
I'll second that motion.
Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Just to be clear, there's just two changes. Paragraph 24 and then promoting footnote 55.
Yeah. And I agree, it's important to show that we're working with the new law without shirking our duty.
Okay, I think we're ready for a vote.
Commissioner O'Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilera?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
The motion to approve the O'Connell clean order with the two changes as discussed passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for bearing with us. We're not allowed to talk about these before the meeting because of the Open Meetings Act unless it's an issue that we can schedule for a closed session, and then we hold a closed session, we notice, and so we get to see a lot of how this is made. So
Most I'm hearing is, why is he doing that? When we get to the meeting, I'm always impressed by, oh, your why was a pretty good reason.
okay, so we'll move on to our second regular action item, which is a matter that's going to be presented by Mr. Russell Fisk. And this is an inquiry regarding Smith Bagley Inc.'s request telecom matter. Mr. Fisk, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're a little muffled, but
okay.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's much better.
Okay. All right. So this matter comes before you for a proposed order opening inquiry related to a letter sent to the Commission by Smith Bagley in December concerning the State Low-Income Telephone Assistance Program, or LITAP, which is administered by the Commission. In the letter, Smith Bagley stated that it intended to begin providing LITAP discounts to tribal households that receive federal lifeline benefits starting January 1st, 2026, and that Smith Bagley intended to seek reimbursement from the State Rural Universal Service Fund, or the SRUSF, for such discounts. In the letter, Smith Bagley acknowledged that it had not sought such reimbursements in the past with regard to its tribal lifeline customers based upon what it called informal advice from Commission staff over 15 years ago. Smith Bagley stated that it had determined that nothing in the Commission's rule concerning LITAP, which is 17.11.11 NMAC, or in the LITAP statute, prevented Smith Bagley from providing the same $3.50 discount to its customers who receive federal tribal lifeline benefits that Smith Bagley provides to its low-income customers who receive federal non-tribal lifeline benefits. In February, Smith Bagley submitted to the SRUSF administrator a request for reimbursement for LITAP discounts made in January that was approximately $50,000 higher than what Smith Bagley had requested for December LITAP discounts. The proposed order would open an inquiry concerning the content of Smith Bagley's letter and its request for reimbursement. The proposed order notes that the Commission has interpreted its LITAP rule to provide for reimbursement only for LITAP discounts to non-tribal lifeline customers ever since the LITAP rule was adopted in 2010. The order cites comments from the record of the rulemaking proceeding in which the rule was adopted, including comments from Smith Bagley, supporting the Commission's interpretation of the rule. The order requests relevant information from Smith Bagley. In addition, the order directs Smith Bagley to provide a breakout of non-tribal and tribal LITAP discount amounts in its reimbursement requests during the pendency of this inquiry. The order also directs the SRUSF administrator to reimburse Smith Bagley only for the non-tribal LITAP discounts during the pendency of the inquiry. And with that, I will take any questions.
For the presentation, Russell, so yeah, I support the inquiry here, and I really see this as just going back all the way to when the rules were adopted, and the NOPR and final order that adopted those rules. It appears that the commission has had a longstanding policy here that did not include the tribal benefits because the tribal members received separate larger benefits. And so there appears to be an opportunity that Smith Bagley is presenting that would change the commission's policy. And there could be merit to changing the policy, but I think the way that we need to do that is through a formal recognition of a change in policy. And it might end up that we don't even need any rules, but I think it's important to go through the process to determine whether a change of policy is necessary, because it affects more than only Smith Bagley. And we need to ensure that if the commission is changing its policy, that is communicated with all stakeholders. And so some of the edits that I included here were to ensure that we explain that history a little bit better, and also ensure that we are directly asking Smith Bagley the questions that we want them to answer. And so I also explained or included a question that requires Smith Bagley to explain if they believe a change in policy is warranted, and to explain why. Commissioners, do you have any comments or discussion on this item?
No, Mr. Chair, I think you explained it well. You ready for a motion? I'll be happy to make.
Yes.
I would move that we approve the order opening inquiry docket and requiring responses to bench requests in this matter.
I'll second. Not seen any discussion, so we'll take a vote on this.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Aguilar?
Yes.
Mr. Nyberg?
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And so we'll move on to our next business item, and we have another order that will be presented by Mr. Fisk. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This matter comes before the commission for consideration of two alternative proposed orders, one of which is an order to show cause directed to SPS and EPE, and the alternative order being an order which would require utility division staff to provide an educational session to SPS and EPE concerning the subject matter of the proposed orders. The subject matter being the participation of budget billing customers as subscribers in the community solar program. More specifically, the orders concern the application of community solar bill credits to the bills of budget billing customers, and whether the methods of applying such credits used by SPS and EPE comply with the requirement of the Community Solar Act that qualifying utilities, quote, apply community solar bill credits to subscriber bills within one billing cycle following the cycle during which the energy was generated by the community solar facility. In January, the Commission issued bench requests to PNM, SPS, and EPE, who are the quote unquote qualifying utilities under the Act, concerning the participation of budget billing customers in the program. Among other things, the Commission asked how each utility applies credits. P&M's response indicated that P&M's methodology is compliant with the Act. The responses by SPS and EPE, however, raised doubts as to whether they are in compliance. The order to show cause would require SPS and EPE to respond by April 13th and show cause as to why they should not be found liable for violating the Act with respect to their application of credits to the bills of budget billing customers who are also subscribers to the program. The order would also require staff to weigh in on the responses received and would allow interested persons to do so as well. The alternative order would require utility division staff to hold an educational session and would require SPS and EPE to attend, whether in person or virtually, on or before April 13th, and P&M may choose to participate voluntarily. And with that, I will take any questions.
Commissioners, would either of you like to open up the discussion?
Sure. Mr. Chair, I drafted the order requiring the educational session because as I understand it, this is a new program, is it not, Mr. Fisk?
Yes, Commissioner Nyberg, this would be, it would be only relatively recently that there have been subscribers to the community solar program. So, the utilities have had budget billing programs for a long time, but this is the first time, starting recently, that they would have to apply the credits to budget billing customers or any other subscribers.
Right, and in January, we asked each of the utilities to submit their procedures for applying those credits, did they not?
That's correct.
And they responded, and so we got 3 different answers, and on our review, or at least staff's review, it looked like maybe 2 of the utilities were applying it differently than what we felt it should be applied. And it seems to me that instead of jumping immediately to a response of show cause why you should not be liable, that we ought to hold some sort of session and explain why we believe that it ought to be applied as a certain way. They can tell us why they believe it ought to be applied another way, but at some point, we need to come to a meeting of the minds as to how all 3 utilities should be applying the credits. And if it seems to me that we ought to work through this together instead of being adversarial from the very beginning on, because nobody's worked through this before. It seemed to me like it's a new program, new way of doing things. Give them an opportunity, have an education session. Maybe we're not viewing it right either, but we need to have a sit down before we start slapping people around, in my opinion. So that's why I drafted the order requiring the educational session.
Yeah, we're in this world where we're trying to get better, and so let's try new things. So I appreciated your suggestion, Commissioner Nyberg. I also agree something needs to be done, because when I was working through this, I went to web pages and looked at what Excel and what El Paso says budget billing is supposed to do, and it's supposed to levelize your payment, so you've got a predictable bill. And so if you're taking a known and measurable and then just not going to reconcile it for 12 months, you're creating a huge adjustment at the end, which doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, if you're really trying to implement budget billing and you got a known and measurable change, implement the known and measurable change, and that's what P&Ms do. And then another difference between the P&M and some of these others that I think is more customer friendly is they don't wait till 12 months is over and then just do an adjustment. They do a mid-course review and see if a earlier adjustment is somehow necessary. And why is that important? Because again, if you're trying to give somebody a predictable payment, making postal changes to their predictable monthly payment, it seems contrary to the goal of the budget bill in the first place. So again, appreciate the approach here. Just wanted to provide my comments before that sit down happens, because you're kind of, for me, trying to explain how what you're doing satisfies common sense, not just what the law is.
I kind of view orders to show cause as to a flagrant. We use more colorful words, but a flagrant refusal to abide by very clear instructions. And I didn't see this in this case. So I think we ought to sit down, work through it, and then if somebody then disagrees and does that, then maybe that's when we do the order to show cause. And I didn't see that.
Well, I also appreciate the constructive approach presented in Commissioner Nyberg's proposal. So just to be sure, and I think it sounds like you're supporting that as well, Commissioner O'Connell. So I would then move to adopt the order that Commissioner Nyberg proposed.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we could go ahead and take a vote on that.
Commissioner O'Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilar?
Yes.
Commissioner Nyberg?
Yes.
The motion to approve Commissioner Nyberg's alternative order passes unanimously, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So we'll move on to our last regular action item. This is docket number 2289 UT. And we still have Mr. Fisk, who's covering for Robert Lundeen. The floor is yours, Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On January 30th, the commission issued its order terminating rulemaking and requiring distribution system plans. In that order, the commission canceled the rulemaking proceeding in this docket and ordered each of the investor-owned utilities to file a distribution system plan on a staggered filing schedule. The commission included in the order a detailed description of the information that must be included in the plan. On March 2nd, the utilities, all three of them, filed their joint request for clarification and extension of deadlines for filing one-time distribution system plans. The utilities asked the commission to reconsider certain aspects of the order terminating rulemaking. They argued that it is unclear whether the plans are intended to function as binding approval filings or as informational planning documents. They argued that it's unclear how the plans will be reviewed and acted upon by the commission and whether certain requirements are consistent with the commission's stated intent to require only one-time plans. The utilities also asked the commission to clarify the plan requirements concerning hosting capacity analysis. Finally, they asked for extensions to the plan filing schedule. There was one response to that request that was filed, which was by Renewable Energy Industries Association of New Mexico, or REIA. REIA opposed the request, arguing that the order terminating rulemaking, quote, identifies required planning elements, preserves existing statutory review standards, and sets reasonable filing deadlines. They further argued that the request seeks regulatory specificity that the commission deliberately chose not to impose when it terminated the rulemaking. There are two alternative orders. First, there is a proposed order that would grant rehearing of the order terminating rulemaking, without ruling upon the content of the request. As per section 621016 of the Public Utility Act, which concerns rehearing of commission orders, the proposed order granting rehearing would have the effect of vacating the order terminating rulemaking, and it would provide the commission the opportunity to issue a new order during a future open meeting addressing the content of the request. The alternative order would partially grant the request insofar as the order would clarify that each utility will have the option of filing its plan either, one, as a solely informational filing, or two, as a request for approval of the plan. Approval of a plan, as stated in Exhibit A to the order terminating rulemaking, would establish the reasonableness of an investment decision, but the utility would remain responsible for being prudent in procurement and implementation of grid modernization and advanced grid technologies, and for ensuring that costs are reasonable. The order partially granting the request would deny the other portions of the utility's request for clarification, as well as the utility's request for extensions of the plan filing deadlines. And with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. I think it's probably better to start with the second order that you explained. I think the initial one that I had proposed is more procedural, would not make a finding yet. And so I think we can just keep that in our back pocket, depending on how the conversation goes, and maybe start with discussing the second order that Mr. Fisk explained. So want to open the floor to see.
Well, I will identify myself as being the author of the second order. Just a couple of things here. First of all, I can totally respect wherever this goes, and however the commission votes is the right answer, not my opinion. I can't support an order that vacates the dates that were issued in the previous order. I can, and then so working through that, it's what this other order does is just offer clarification that yes, indeed, we did give the utilities flexibility. For me, that was kind of an ironic thing for them to ask for as a foundation to start over again, because in the request, it says joint utilities appreciate the approach and the flexibility is intended to provide. So then to turn that flexibility around as a, hey, let's stop, was a little off-putting to me, or I had a hard time understanding it. So yes, indeed, utilities, you get the opportunity to decide to whether this will be an informational filing or something that's approved. Approval is going to be more of a litigated case. And so just from my perspective, why was that in the order that we issued? Go back and read comments from several of the commenters. I'll highlight Western Resource Advocates, and they talk about it's horrifically hard and expensive if we litigate this stuff twice. So utilities, you get to choose. You want to litigate it once or twice. If you want to go for approval, then you're probably going to need to be a little more robust with your public advisory and make sure that you bring your stakeholders with you when you develop your plan. You also have the opportunity just to do an informational filing, and then we'll deal with that too on an equal basis, right? And then other irony is just background on this thing, right? The grid modernization statute passed in 2020. The commission engaged in 10 workshops from 2020 to 2022 about this very topic. Then there was an informal rulemaking in 2022 before the planning commission took over. Since that time, we posted 5 workshops or special open meetings about this topic. We have had, then we issued the NOPR and had the normal course of initial comments, response comments, another public hearing, reply comments. So it's not like this should have been a surprise that you're going to be asked to do distribution plans. That's been going on since 2020. It's now 2026. And one of the things that we've heard over and over again, just in the last 2 days, is the situation's urgent. The system is at capacity. It needs to move forward. Yes, we need to move forward with generation and transmission on the bulk power system. We also need to move forward with opportunities on the distribution system. I heard a great example of that just this morning. Water desalinization plant is the kind of thing that distribution planning can clarify where investment is needed. It can also open up the door for how best can that load work with the other loads that are out there. Because really the thing that I'm pushing for and reason for hosting capacity analysis is we want to get to where utilities have opportunities to actively manage peak demand on distribution fees. Because, we've heard over and over again that one of the things that's driving costs so much is having to build capacity for a select 30 or 40 hours per year, the super peak. If you've got visibility and understanding of your distribution feeders, if you've given the market the opportunity to understand how they can participate in a meaningful way at the distribution level, that gives you, utility, the opportunity to manage those super peaks and maybe eliminate. So then you're trying to build your bulk power system to a much more reasonable number than what you're doing right now. So it's frustrating that it's 2026 and we're sitting here saying, nope, we need to take a little bit more time. And part of the reason we got to take more time is because you gave me some flexibility. So anyway, just hopefully you're hearing some of the feelings that this joint motion engendered in me. Another thing that was super ironic about it was the reason I thought, hey, let's go to individual plans because utilities were loud and clear. You can't write this rule because we're all different. So then to come in and say, you can't impose this on us because we're the same. We don't want to do hosting capacity analysis was doubly offensive. So the other thing I'm going to say about hosting capacity analysis is New Mexico utilities are behind the industry in the ability to do this work. So the threshold for me is I asked Russell, is there a way to provide what utilities are wanting without vacating the dates because of the way the process is structured? The answer to that was no. So that's why I proposed an order that doesn't vacate the dates. It does clarify, yes, indeed, I did give you flexibility, which you told me was good. And so that order, if it succeeds this morning, the result will be the order that stands, and then each utility, you're going to be on your own track. If you've got something that you want to talk about in terms of what that plan requires, you come in individually. Coming in as a group after you spent time in the rulemaking saying you can't impose a rule because we're all different, but get rid of it because we're all the same, that does not work. No.
Those comments and when I first was trying to get to the bottom of what all the clarifications that were being requested, the thought came to mind that it looked like the parties are looking at it maybe too critically. They want flexibility. On the other hand, they wanted specificity on a variety of things. And as I understood it, when we first looked at the order and now reviewing that order and coming up with maybe some clarification, it seems to me that what will happen is we'll probably get 3 filings that are not going to go through the formal process or the more complicated process. It'll be an informational process, but as I read the effort that extends now for about 6 years, that while we're just requiring a one-time filing, I don't think it means that the issue goes away. In fact, I think the opposite ought to occur. I think this type of planning needs to be ongoing, and I would hope that maybe as these things move forward, that the utilities will find this process to be beneficial and will ultimately get to the point where they would rather go through a formal process and engage in this at an earlier cause so that they can rely on our approval of the document in meeting their future needs. I'm not expecting that in this first round, but maybe somebody will surprise me. But I anticipate we'll get 3 of the informational filings where they choose what they want to put in it, so that the specificity and stuff they were arguing about, well, it'll take 3 years to do this or that. Well, if it's informational, you put your best guess in. We're not going to criticize you. We're just going to get the information, and it's publicly available. Put your best guess in. We don't have to spend millions of dollars to address some of those items. Put down what you think you're going to do. But I would hope that as we work through these things, that this becomes maybe a potential vehicle that gives you some assurances down the road that, hey, the commission's already looked at this stuff. It's approved it, and it's going to be, if we follow this plan, it's going to be easier for us to implement that plan down the road. And I hope that's where we're going. I hope in the long run, it results in maybe being able to look at things in a much more prompt fashion than the current system. So, you know, I appreciate the order that was drafted that clarifies the one paragraph and still has the deadlines in it, knowing that or anticipating that this first round will just get informational filing. But thereafter, I hope that people respond to us and say, hey, we want to start using this as a more formal process, and we would like to not just have this one-time filing, but we'd like to use this as a process moving forward, because I think it does have some real benefits to the utilities in their planning and giving us a heads up of what's coming down the pipe. And like I said, if we do that approval process and go through the more formal process, then at least there ought to be presumptions that are available as a result of that process that don't exist in the current system. So I like the flexibility, and I like the utilities having control over that and deciding how they want to move forward, not only in the first round, but see whether this is beneficial to them and whether they want to come back and say, hey, this is something that we want to engage in. Not requiring, I mean, one utility may choose to go that route, another may choose to never do this again. They're fine with the one-time filing, but it gives that flexibility, and I think I appreciated that.
Well, I also support the order that provides the clarification and additional and the flexibility. In some of the explanations in the request for a hearing, it sounds like what we came up with is not entirely clear. I mean, I think the informational and approval part of it is one of it, but there are also comments about like the wildfire expenses and I really think that if there is not clarity, it's really a symptom of the flexibility that is being offered. And so do you want something that's more prescriptive, or do you want something that's more flexible? And in offering the more flexible route, I think there is some inherent lack of clarity, but it provides the option for the utility to propose either informational or approval, or with respect to other elements explained there. So I support that as well. I do want to mention one quick thing about the hosting capacity analysis, because that also is caused some concern for the utilities. And I hear you, it's more work and it costs money, but there are also efficiencies built into it. There is value with respect to interconnection. You know, one problem that we've had is with respect to community solar. Well, if we provide the information through hosting capacity analysis, community solar projects could interconnect in places that make more sense for the grid, or so I get that it's more work and there is an investment there, but I would just urge the utilities to think of the value and the efficiencies that are gained. Those are all of the comments that I had there.
Yeah, I mean, that partially why we would have to invest in software was galling is, again, our utilities are not on the lead of this. Other utilities have figured this out. So if your current relationships with engineering vendors are not supporting this, maybe you should find a new engineer, is where I'm at on that. So not only might it be more efficient, you might find out it's not as scary as you think it is. But if you just sit here saying, I'm not even going to try, you're not going to learn. And we, New Mexico, need you to try new things. Just the status of the electric grid alone is the reason for that. So if you're not trying to find new ways to optimize capacity and save costs, based on, you know, we spend a lot of time out on the road going to learning instances, you're on the verge of being improved. So that was just, this, I tried not to get hot under the collar on these things, but this one set me up.
Well, I think we're ready then for a motion and a vote on an order. Commissioner O'Connell, would you make a motion here?
Yeah, I move that we adopt the order partially granting request for clarification.
I'll second that.
I think we're ready for a vote. Take a vote.
Commissioner O'Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilar?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have communications with Chief of Staff. Turn it over to Ms. Corey.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Deere, thank you. And thank you to everyone here in Hobbs, Clovis last night, Roswell this afternoon. Such a lovely opportunity to get out of the Santa Fe area and see really critical parts of our state that we don't get to often enough. So thank you, everyone. I'm excited to say just this week, HB 70 was signed by the governor. And so the PRC's legislation is now chaptered and part of New Mexico law. Congratulations, commissioners. Thank you, everyone who worked with us on this. Thank you to Miranda and Jerry and John and everyone on the PRC team who made this happen. I also want to take a moment and just recognize the agency generally, because it's the work that our staff does every day that leads to the consistency and to the trust that we've been building within New Mexico. So truly a team effort. Appreciate all of that. And it's exciting because HB 70 not only gives us operational flexibility, but it allows us to become a self-funded agency, all without imposing any new fees. So it's everything that the utilities are already paying to the PRC, and we get to keep those moving forward to fund ourselves, so we're not in competition with the general fund. So thank you, commissioners, for your support on that, and congratulations. I also wanted to update you, the governor did sign the budget, meaning that our $4 million capital outlay has been approved. So we can start work soon on our permanent home in Santa Fe. So really looking forward to that. There's lots happening, but nothing that you don't already know about. We're continuing to improve the PRC E360 experience. We have prioritized some of the critical feedback that we've gotten from members of the public and our staff and some of you for usability and making sure we're fine tuning that. But really excited with just where we're at this spring and looking forward to the next steps, which we'll be talking about soon. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments? Well, I just want to express the same thank you to the staff and stakeholders who worked on helping the PRC bill pass. And so that is really, that's tremendous accomplishment. So thank you so much for that. I think with that, then we can move on to communications with commissioners. I'm gonna maybe ask if one of you will get us started. I need to pull up the calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It has been great to get out of the Santa Fe Albuquerque area and see southeast New Mexico. And today on our way to Roswell, I'm sure we'll see where a lot of that energy is being utilized as we drive through the oil path. But the good news, we heard a number of comments today about the lack of energy in southeast New Mexico. And I understand from people at NextEra that their line will be completed. They tell me by this summer, July, it should be operational. And I hope that if it is not, that somebody at SPS will advise me so that I can make a phone call or two to Pedro at NextEra and tell him that they better get that thing energized, because we heard it loud and clear today. We've heard it loud and clear for about 45 months that more energy is needed in this part of the state. And so I'd be happy to do that, but I understand that it will be completed. Appreciate Lance Pyle, and who's the Curry County manager, and offering the facilities in Clovis, and extend my appreciation to he and the Curry County Commission for the facilities last night. Likewise to Maricena and the staff here in Hobbs for utilizing their chambers and this beautiful facility. We're getting spoiled, having come from the Bochum building. We really like these new digs that we find ourselves in, whether it's the Capitol or places like this that really accommodate the public as well as our meetings in a much more comfortable fashion than maybe we have in the past. And we look forward to going to my hometown of Roswell this afternoon. And I know that Jennifer's been working with
Bill Williams, who's the Chaves County manager, and I'm sure that they will have facilities there for us to have a similar meeting that we had last night and today there in Roswell. You know, I went to the SPP meetings this past week or two ago, and Southeast New Mexico continues to be on the radar. There's two, I may get the wattage wrong, 765 kV lines that are scheduled to come into this part of the world. These lines carry an awful lot of energy, and they are very expensive. SPS has been awarded the contract on the first line. I believe the second line is still being considered, but people have recognized the need for energy in Southeast New Mexico, and I would say we're moving as quickly as possible, but that's not going to be received very well in a community that needs more energy. But people are working to get energy into this part of the world so that we can avoid what's happened for the last almost 4 years of having natural gas and diesel generators on site at locations and people having to do without power, economic development not being able to assure new opportunities that they would have adequate power. We hope that those things are alleviated by this NextEra line, and hopefully these two really large lines that are planned for this area. And I may have this wrong, Jared, tell me if I'm correct, but I think a 765 kV line transmitted about 5 times the power, about 5 times the power of the 365. And so it's a lot more energy than what we see in this part of the world. And 765 seems to be the next step up for utility companies. It's been utilized in the Midwest, and these would be the first lines in the SPP territory. And the plans are for SPP to have a backbone of 765 running from Canada to basically the Texas New Mexico line here in Southeast New Mexico and over in Northwest Louisiana. So hopefully that will alleviate future concerns for power in this part of the state. And I appreciate the people from SPS and El Paso Electric being here in these meetings, and appreciate them giving us encouragement and moving forward on some of these issues, even though at times we're at loggerheads on certain issues. But do appreciate your attendance today. Thank you very much.
Just really quickly, happy to be here in person, especially in Hobbs, but again, I've been on the road for a while and then back in New Mexico for at least till middle of April when things ramp up again. The one thing that is coming up between now and our next meeting is, my new role on the MRC at NERC and representing commissioners at large, including both of you. And one topic that NERC is very interested in is, are they doing their long-term reliability assessments as well as can be done? So that's a report that they put out every year. It's important and impactful, but it's a very interesting technical question because they're bubbling up, adding up load forecasts from many different balancing areas across the country. So if you're familiar with the God of big numbers, if you're adding together numbers that were generated by belts and suspenders people's God of big numbers, you assume that your errors are going to offset. But if everybody's putting their thumb on the scale and then you add it all up at the national level, did you really get the right answer? So that's the kind of thing that's being discussed at NERC. And there will be a technical conference on Thursday, March 26th It's on East Coast time, so I'll get up early for that, join that, and then do our meeting. And when the voting items are over, then I'll probably go to that conference. So anyway, if you have something that you're interested in on that, I'm here. Me or Marcus in Wisconsin, who you choose.
I'm long overdue on sort of sharing the conferences and panels that I'm gonna attend, and so just wanted to share some of that. And looking at my schedule, April is going to be a very busy month for travel. So on April 7th through 8th, I'll be at the Transmission Infrastructure South Conference. So that'll be in Austin, Texas, and I'll be on a panel there speaking about transmission. And then on April 14, I will be at the California Clean Energy Summit, and I'll be on a panel there speaking on interconnection. And then directly after that, I will be going to DC for the Commission Chairs Council that NARU holds, that they've had in the past, and Commissioner O'Connell has attended. So that's April 15 through 16. And then back home, we have a couple of conferences that'll be happening in Santa Fe, the Current Issues Conference. That's April 21 through 22. And then that overlaps with the National Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Conference. So I'll be on a panel at both of those conferences. And I guess it's my first time having been on two panels in one day. So I'll go from one to the other. So we'll see how that goes. And then I'm going to be going to the Water Policy Forum that is being held by NAWC, and that's April 27 through 29. And then on May 12 through 14, I'll be going to the PrepCYRAB meeting. And so that'll be a very, very busy stretch. In a way, it's kind of good that it's condensed within a month and kind of just cross them off. And I think I'm ready for it, although this all the driving that we've done in the last couple of days is testing that a little bit, but I haven't been traveling very much the last few months, and so it's been a good run to just not have all of that travel. And then after that, I'm sure Commissioner O'Connell will share more on the Western NARU conference that we'll be hosting, but that's at the end of May and beginning of June.
Registration is open.
Registration is open for that. And so thank you, Commissioner O'Connell, who has been the lead on that. And well, I won't steal any of your thunder. I'm sure you'll mention more about it as we get closer.
I'm waiting until Jordan gets back from his much deserved break, so whatever I say meets his standards.
So those are the communications that I wanted to share. Again, for anybody watching online, if you're in Roswell, we'll be there as well from 4 to 7 for a public comment session on the two SPS dockets, the CCN case and the rate case, and those are docket numbers 2566 and 2579. Anything further for the good of the order, commissioners? Okay, well, I think the next item on our
going to Roswell for collegians.
yes. Well, I think with that, then we are adjourned.